In the spring of 2015, I was very kindly asked to provide the picture for the front cover of the catalogue for the Society of Botanical Artists show. I thought this was a wonderful chance to explore my love for peonies, and I was so excited that I went straight back to the studio and started to stretch the paper. Now, a large piece of paper is quite difficult to stretch, and what you do is you soak it thoroughly on the back and then give it a good chance to really get nice and soggy, and then flip it over and very carefully stick it down with the gum tape. Once you've done that, you leave it to dry, and hopefully it'll dry tight as a drum. So of course, once I had my huge piece of paper, I was a little bit daunted because it's so huge and white. So I thought, well, the only place to start is to start right at the beginning, and I started with my favourite peony, which is a beautiful peony called Dr. Alexander Fleming. And I started drawing this peony with quite a lot of excitement because it was actually growing in my garden. It's one of the first things that I planted in the garden. And as the stages went along, the colours needed to be intensified. So it was quite a dark pink that had to get into the centre of the flower. But it was really good fun because it was quite a complicated structure. So the next thing was to go back to the painting and add in another peony. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to add the peony Sarah Bernhardt, which is a really beautiful variegated peony. I put that alongside, and it looks so pretty, but I didn't really have an idea of what the whole picture would be like. So I ran out to the garden and fetched another flower, which is another peony, a beautiful white one, and I loved the underneath of it. So initially I thought, oh, that'd be nice, we'll have the underneath of the flower and the fully open pink one and the small bud. But of course I had this huge piece of paper that I'd stretched, and I thought, well, I can't stop there. So moving on from that, I grabbed some little peony buds and added one just above to make a nice little arrangement. So the next stage, I've got these 4 little studies, and I stood the painting back up against the wall and suddenly had this idea. It was a flash of enlightenment there. And I thought what would be really cool would be to have the flowers growing in size across the paper. I had enough room, so I thought I'd start enlarging the blooms. At the moment, I'm working all from fresh flowers. So I went on to a really big bud that was just about to fall open. It was sort of just before the flower explodes onto the page. And I thought, well, I'll put that alongside, and I thought I'll do the underneath of the white peony going alongside that. The underneath of the white peony was so brilliant. It was just so messy and complicated, lots of colours. So that was a really lovely little moment of painting for me anyway. It's what I love doing the most. And the white petals were quite challenging. It's amazing how dark you had to go. So I've got those mapped in. I then come back and have a look at the rest of the painting and see what could go in. And I start looking back at the bright pink peonies and start mapping in the double-headed one at the top. Now for this, I needed to mix a really big amount of pink, lovely strong mixture of deep colours for that. And I mixed the Helios purple with the Rose Madder Lake. These are Sennelier colours. And I loved painting this flower, but it was quite challenging. And as it was going over, I had to do the first parts really quickly from the fresh flower and the rest from a photograph. So moving on, I started to build up a lot of detail onto the flowers that I'd already done, because you can keep coming back to them and revisiting them. And then as the painting progressed, I was starting to feel a bit excited, so I started adding in some extra underneath the flowers at the top. So the next thing was to start thinking about the buds, because I wanted the buds to go in a beautiful crest across the top of the painting. I used the buds from the garden that were still coming out, and I bought a couple as well. And I started placing the buds over the top of the painting. Once I started to map all of those in, I needed to prop the painting up every now and then just to get a feel of how the painting was progressing. This is really useful to stand it in the distance and have a really good long look at it. I work flat on the table, so this is the angle that I was seeing as I was painting, and you can see how I started to map in all the stems then. It's really exciting at that point because you're starting to see the composition come together. And the stems are just matched to sort of exaggerate the curve of the design. Once you've got the stems in, of course, you can then start mapping in the leaves. And it was actually quite sparse, the leaf on the stems, because they were quite tall, and the leaves are not very bushy at this stage. So once I got all the stems and the leaves mapped in, it was just really a matter of just a lot of hard graft then, just to get all of the detail painted in and really start enjoying those last few moments. And so there it is, there's the final design, and I was so pleased with it, but of course I hadn't shown it to the president of the SBA. The next thing was to get the painting scanned and sent off to the secretary and the president to make sure they were happy with the design. Once they approved it, we then went on to talk about what we could do with it, as well as having it on the cover of the catalogue. We were going to use it for the exhibition invites and the exhibition posters, as well as some products. We decided we would turn it into a bag, a lovely shopping bag, reusable shopping bag, and some beautiful tea towels. And these are all going to be on sale at the show. If you like what I've shown you here, you can actually join me and learn how to paint on my website, billyshowell.com. We do actually have a beautiful peony bud tutorial on there, and it's great fun. I've got loads of other things that you can learn how to paint. You can also see other painters, marvellous, wonderful painters from all over the British Isles and beyond, who are members of the Society of Botanical Artists. They have a brand new website which is wonderful and shows you lots of things that they do, their distance learning, their exhibitions coming up and so on. And of course you can see on there the final invitation with the final painting on there with all the dates of the show coming up this April. So the show is on at Westminster Central Hall. It's right in the middle of Westminster. It's on from the 15th to the 23rd of April from 11 till 5. And there's more than 500 beautiful, varied paintings, all different mediums and all different flowers. So do come and have a look. It's wonderful. The subject is shape, pattern, structure, and we will wow you.